Morning, folks. Well, it's morning as I'm recording this in a very wet and cold West Cumbria. It's currently persisting it down. It's been quite a while since I've managed to do a sort of finds video. It's been things have been hectic of late. But I thought I'll try and get down to it now because my inbox has been growing and I've not been listening to as much as I would like to recently. So I'd like to start off with a bit of VCLT, and this has very kindly come from Mr. Rob Ison. Now, this is an album Rob showed recently, and I commented that I'd had a chance to buy it on a shopping trip to Barra in pre-pandemic times, and I regretted that I didn't actually get it. So he's very kindly sent me a copy, and this is the album Consequences, the magnum opus of Lol Creme and Kevin Godley from, I think, 1977. Creme and Godley are obviously, one half of the original lineup of 10cc, the art rock half, to sort of Stewart and Gouldman's sort of more pop sensibilities. There's the two guys. When they left 10cc, they were looking to develop a device called the Gizmo, which there's a picture of it, which is a device that attaches to the bridge of a guitar and extends the range of sounds that the guitar can produce, much I think like an EBO does. Originally they were going to do a single to demonstrate its capabilities, but ended up producing this triple album. First, sides 1, 2 and 6 are predominantly instrumental and show off the capabilities of the Gizmo, pretty progressive in nature, while the rest of the album is taken up with this darkly comic and surreal tale play, written and mainly voiced by the late great Peter Cook. Weird stuff, but this album was highly enjoyable. I really enjoy this album. So thank you very much, Rob. Much appreciated. I can't say thank you enough for sending me this. So that's first one. Now, I don't normally collect singles, but I was in the charity shop the other day, looking mainly for books, but I checked out the vinyl. The LPs were the usual charity shop stuff, but there was a whole pile of singles there that had just come in, and I thought I'll have a look through. Now, at first it was Engelbert Humperdinck after Engelbert Humperdinck after Engelbert Humperdinck after Engelbert Humperdinck. Somebody must have been a big fan, but then it got slightly dodgy with singles by Jonathan King, Rolf Harris and Gary Glitter. Somebody's obviously clearing out. But the last few singles, there was some decent stuff. And I thought, what the hell? For 50p each, let's try some of these. Now, the covers are pretty knackered. I'm going to have to buy some new covers to put these in. But let's go through what I got. The first one is a single by Long John Baldry, Let the Heartaches Begin from 1967, backed with Annabella, Who Flies to Me When She's Lonely. According to my notes, this got to number 1. Now, I was expecting this to be sort of more of a bluesy number, given Long John Baldry's reputation. But it's quite middle of the road, and I must admit, not to my taste. So this, I probably won't be keeping hold of this. Second up was Nancy Sinatra and Lee Hazelwood with Did You Ever from 1971, backed with Back on the Road. I remember this, Did You Ever is a great single. And this one got to number 2 in the UK. Third one was this single Rosetta by Fame and Price, Georgie Fame and Alan Price. From 1971. Got to number 11 in the charts. The A-side's okay, but the B-side, John and Mary, an Alan Price number, is excellent. Next, one that probably quite a lot of people wouldn't like, but it's The Marmalade with their version of Obla Di Obla Da from 1968 on the CBS label, and this was a number 1. And the B-side is Chains from the LP There's a Lot of It About. Very poppy but enjoyable. Next one I remember from 1973, Albert Hammond's The Free Electric Band. Great single. Only got to number 19, I think, yes, in the charts here. And on the B-side is You Taught Me to Sing the Blues. That's on the Mums label. Sixth, in a fairly, very knackered cover, is Melanie's I can get this right way up. Melanie's Brand New Key, which got to number 4 in the UK and number 1 in the US. And on the B-side is Some Say I Got the Devil. These are both tracks from the Gather Me LP that I got late last year. And finally, on the Vanguard label, Joan Baez's The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, the band number, Robbie Robertson's song. Got to number 6 in the UK and number 3 in the US. On the B-side, he's self-written When Time Is Stolen. So I was quite pleased with these. They didn't look in great condition, but once they were given a good clean, they played really well. So maybe I'll have to start collecting singles. God, LPs are enough. Right, onto the LPs themselves. And first, a band that was new to me, I hadn't heard of, and that's the band Trees Speak, with their album Posthuman on the Soul Jazz Records label from, not sure what year this was. It's fairly recent. Bear with me. No, it doesn't say. Anyway, sorry. Trees Speak are a duo, the Diaz brothers from Arizona in the States. They've done about 4 or 5 albums. I think this is the 4th one, I think. And they're very much in that neo-krautrock vein. Krautrock, electronic music, rock music. A bit of noise, cluster, all those sort of things. Excellent stuff. I'm going to have to try out some more of their albums. But if that sounds up your street, I would highly recommend Trees Speak. And sticking with the krautrock, but legitimate krautrock, we have AsHRAE Temple's 1972 album 7 Up. The album they did with LSD guru Timothy Leary, who at the time was in exile in Switzerland after making a jailbreak in the States. The band had to go to Switzerland to record this with him. It's taken up by 2 tracks, 1 track per side. The first one, Space, is broke down into Downtown, Power Drive, Right Hand Lover and Velvet Jeans. And these are fairly bluesy numbers, though with a bit of the AsHRAE Cosmischer effect on them. Good stuff, but not the typical AsHRAE sound. Whereas the second side, Time, is more that typical AsHRAE krautrock take on music, but well worth having. I think this is a recent reissue on the Ore label. Next up is another album from 1972, and that is John McLaughlin's Devotion. Now, this isn't what I was expecting it to be, especially with a lineup of John McLaughlin on guitar, Buddy Miles on drums, Larry Young on organ and electric piano, Billy Rich on bass. With McLaughlin, you'd expect jazz rock, but this is pure acid rock, and it's excellent, superb stuff. Well worth checking out. Love this one. And where would be one of my videos be without some Scandinavian progressive rock music, and particularly Norwegian? This one's for you, Richard. And this is Ståle Storlocken, excuse the pronunciation, who is the keyboard player for the avant-garde band Super Silent, and also for the sort of jazz rock fusion band Elephant Nine. He's also played with a number of other Norwegian acts like Motorpsycho and others. And this is a pure keyboard album. On this one, The Haze of Sleeplessness, which is from 2019, he plays sort of analog synths, Mellotron, Hammond organ, Fender Rhodes, etc. I was expecting this maybe to be more in the sort of Cosmischer vein, the Berlin Schools, all of that, but it's totally not. It's very avant-garde in its stylings, but it's good stuff. And I followed that up with his 2020 album, Ghost Caravan. Now, this one is played solely on church organ. I suppose in some ways it's similar to Peter Michael Hamill's music of that ilk, but less ambient and weirder. Some of the sounds he gets out of a church organ don't sound like church organ whatsoever. But again, highly enjoyable, pretty experimental. Let's get into a bit of folk. And first up, we have this album by John James, Head in the Clouds. Now, John James was is a Welsh guitarist, acoustic guitarist from the 70s, I think. This is his album is on the Transatlantic label, came out in 1975. There must have been something in the water then. There were so many great guitarists came out of Britain in the 60s and 70s. This is typical of a lot of that ilk. A lot of, sort of bluesy acoustic instrumentals, ragtime, self-penned numbers. It's the first album I've heard by him, but I would highly recommend it. And even better, the great John Renborn, obviously better known for being in Pentangle. And this is his 1966 album on Transatlantic, Another Monday. I think this was his second. I might be wrong, it might be his first, but I think it's his second album. And on here this is pre-Pentangle. And on here he's joined on, I think, 3 numbers by Jackie McShea, who he describes as a young singer who I first met at the Red Lion Club, Sutton, where she was resident. Excellent stuff, as you'd expect from Mr. Renborn. I actually saw John Renborn and Jackie McShea perform as a duo. I don't know if it was late 90s, early 2000s in Manchester, where they were superb. I'd love to find more of John Renborn's early stuff, but it tends to be difficult to find. Now, I mentioned Mr. Ryson before, and he's been showing a number of albums recently by this artist who he's been getting highly into, and that's Michael Chapman. Great singer, songwriter, guitarist. And this is a live album called Original Owners that he did with Rick Kemp. Rick Kemp being obviously the bassist in Steel Ice Band for many, many years. This was recorded at Nettlefold Hall in London. It doesn't say when, but the record came out in, I think, 1984, I think. So I presume it was from that year or the year before. You get a lyric sheet, and it's out. It came out on the Connection label, which is out of Belgium. So I don't know whether it ever got a release in this country. Excellent live album. And I also picked up this recently by Michael Chapman, his album Savage Amusement on the Decca label. And this is from 1976. And on here you get Rick Kemp plays bass again. You get Keith Hartley, the famous drummer, and on guitars, along with Michael Chapman, you get Tim Rennick and Andy Latimer of Camel fame. This is an excellent album, features one of my favourite songs of his, Shuffleboat River Farewell. So that's the albums so far. I've also been picking up quite a few CDs recently. Now, in a recent video, Michael P. Dawson showed an album by an American folk band called the Golden Bough, and 1/3 of the Golden Bough is the mandolinist Leif Thorby, who is also the leader of a electric folk band that I used to really love back in the 90s. They're called Tempest. Now, I didn't know they were still doing stuff, but they are. So I went online onto Discogs and found a seller that was selling some of their latest studio albums from the 2000s, really dirt cheap. So I had to buy them. None of these, unfortunately, come on CD, on vinyl. The first is Balance from, when is this one from? 2001. The next one, Another Dawn from 2010. The Double Cross from 2006. And The Tracks We Leave from 2015. Now, Tempest, I said, are an electric folk band, do a lot of traditional material in a sort of, probably that sort of Steel Ice band sort of vein, but with probably a more proggy edge. In fact, more like Jethro Tull during their Heavy Horses period, but without the flute and with traditional material. They're superb. They're still doing great stuff. The stuff they did in the 90s I love, but this is up there with that. There's still 1 or 2 live albums I'm trying to track down of theirs. And according to Michael, they've got a new album coming out this year sometime. So I'm really looking forward to that. Like I say, the main guy is Leif Thorby, who plays, I think, mandolin. He's the mainstay of the band. The lineup changes quite a bit over the years. He's Norwegian, so had to get that in somewhere. But has lived in the States for probably most of his life, I would imagine now. And on most of these albums, he fits in a Norwegian folk song. But highly recommend if you like Steel Ice band. And I'd like to finish off with a Christmas present that I bought for myself. Who else will do it? And this is a 13-disc box set of one of my favourite British jazz fusion bands, Nucleus, led obviously by the trumpeter Ian Carr. And this is live at the BBC. Covers material from 1970 on Top Gear through to, I think, 1991. It was originally going to be just 11 discs, but they found a couple of extra discs worth of material. Comes with a nice little booklet. With details of the music, an essay. This is on the Repertoire label, and they recently did similar box sets for Barbara Thompson and for Colosseum. Highly recommended if you like British jazz. Excellent. And as there's been, there's quite a few people into British jazz and jazz fusion from the videos I've been watching. I thought I'd show these couple of books that might be of interest to anybody into that scene. This Dartmouth one, first off, is Elastic Rock, title going back to Nucleus, a survey of jazz rock in Europe 1968 to 1980 by Tony Adam. These are self-printed books, I think, but they're really interesting. The formatting leaves a lot to be desired, but this one particularly is the biggest of the volumes and details hundreds of bands from Europe that are in that jazz fusion vein, describes the albums, rates the albums, gives you the lineups. A great reference book if you're into that type of music. And he's done the second one, Elastic Rock 2, a survey of jazz rock in the Americas, Japan and Australasia, 1968 to 80. A slimmer volume, but interesting enough, in the same format. Since then, he's done a number of other ones detailing British jazz, I think French, the Scandinavian scene, and even Polish jazz. And they're quite inexpensive, these books. They're all available on Amazon. There are other retailers. But if you're into jazz fusion, I'd recommend these books. They're a good, like I say, a reference guide to the scene. Right, that's it for now. Like I say, my inbox is crammed to the gills at the moment. I need to get to listening to music again a bit more, and hopefully show some of the stuff I've been picking up. Next week is the return of the Kendal Record Fair after a few months break. So I'll be off to there and hopefully picking up lots of goodies. Anyway, wishing everybody all the best. Take care. Bye.